Yeah, the vital thing to do, contact your representatives, please. Tell them to get this Ukraine aid passed. A short time ago, Biden put together a package of aid for Ukraine that included Israel, Ukraine, border money, border control money, which gets into my ultimate red herring about the goddamn border in the first place. So he packaged all these things together in an attempt to get the Republicans to just eat the thing and pass the bill. Unfortunately, Mike Johnson is insane, so that's not going to happen. Additionally, the Senate decided not to advance the funding bill either. So at this moment, Ukraine is looking at a very serious situation where their most significant financial and weapons backer is about to stop providing them weapons,
Yeah.
effectively abandoning Ukraine. Um,
With what the Kremlin has been trying to accomplish since this whole thing started. And I think it all goes back to the fact that so many senior members of the GOP are getting money from Russian sources.
yes, to put it politely, they've been ideologically captured,
Yeah.
which is the problem and something we should probably do something about. I don't know, maybe there's a counterintelligence agency in this country that has famously been working very famously in its past, worked very hard to root out Russian influence in the government, and this seems to be completely off its rocker now. I'm looking at you, FBI.
And what party is it that's been talking about trying to defund the organization since it's compromised by liberals?
Yeah, yeah, the same party that probably should be under investigation. Uh, it's a very frustrating set of
I think we need to
circumstances.
stop calling it a political party and just call it what it is, a criminal conspiracy.
Uh, it's a cartel at this
Transnational
point.
organized crime.
Organized might be a step too generous. You remember the speaker? You remember the speaker race? That was disorganized crime if ever I saw it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have linked at the top of the live chat tonight a link. Stop it, Bubba. You're fine. Sorry, Avery the history dog is. I guess the cats are eating again. He's trying to get out and escape and go bother them. Anyway. Damn cats. Anyway, I have provided a link that lets you find your representative if you're an American. Your House representative. You're on your own. Just Google your senators. So you throw in your zip code and address, and boom, it gives you your representative. Stop it. No. I will encourage you to contact your representative, red or blue, Republican, Democrat, whatever the hell they are, and tell them that if they abandon Ukraine and don't fund this, that they can expect to be voted out of office. Light up their switchboards endlessly, because
Yep.
this is a existential problem. Like Israel, I don't know why we're giving more money to Israel. It boggles my mind. Uh, Even accepting this evidence we have from today, Israel has no danger of losing to Hamas, but Ukraine can lose. They can people will be slaughtered. It'll be
Yep.
a thousand Buchas all over again, town by town. You think the Russians were vicious the first time? Now they've been frustrated for 2 years. Imagine how vicious they're going to be.
Well, you consider how many casualties the Russians have suffered in this insane, pointless war of theirs, and every household is knows somebody or has somebody that's been injured or killed in the conflict, probably. And the Russians never blame their own leaders. They always blame outsiders.
Yes. So that kind of runs to like Ukraine. The first problem, I think, and we've talked about this in the past, is that the administration has slow walked things that are vital that Ukraine needs.
Yeah.
Missiles, ATACMS, things like that. They're continuing to do so. The M1 Abrams that were promised Ukraine only just arrived now. It's the F-16s that uh, have been promised Ukraine won't be there till 2025. And that's probably a generous estimate.
Yep.
And they're insufficient for the task at hand. They're 2 years away. And if this funding thing cuts out, it would be a moot point anyway. The news was grim this week. A lot of recriminations were being thrown around. A lot of Russian sources were erroneously saying they were advancing on all fronts.
No, they're not by any stretch of the imagination.
That would require you to have an incredibly limited definition of what fronts are. To Ivica,
Yeah.
and it would be a very slow advance around Ivica. They have made some progress. They are still suffering ridiculous casualties. The approach that Ukraine is taking in holding these positions is probably wrong, I think. I think it's time to collapse the salient, retreat out, establish new lines, and start over.
Yeah.
There is no argument like you could make for Bakhmut. One of your senators is Josh Hawley. Well, you'll have to catch him while he's running, obviously, from everything that might be remotely terrifying, while simultaneously trying to call himself a manly man. I suggest getting Acme kit like you would catch Roadrunner with. You could probably find him hiding in the bathroom, at least initially. So Russia is making very slow progress around that city, around Avika, towards that industrial area in particular. I don't see the reason to hold it. He doesn't answer the phones anymore. That's like, I feel like if a representative of Congress is no longer taking constituent concerns in question, they should be immediately expelled from Congress.
He's probably taking all constituents that matter in his estimation.
Perhaps, but like that's not how being a representative works. Even if my
Oh, you're being that liberal hand wringing guy. No. Only people that matter in this country are the wealthy. Let's be honest here.
yes, you have to forgive me. Having read the Constitution is a crippling deficiency. Hi, Avery. Yes, you're a good baby. You're a good boy, but you need to lie down. Oh, he's being very insistent tonight. Oh, cattle dogs are quite the thing. If you ever get a cattle dog, you'll never have a moment peace again. But I love him so. Anyway, yeah, like yes, being a representative, you have to, even if you make your district bullshit, everyone inside that bullshit district is technically represented by you. You have to take their phone call. Stop it. Like that feels like a colossal oversight on our part.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the other thing that came out this week was a Washington Post report, and I read parts of it because it was paywalled. A Washington Post report talking about how we, the United States, war gamed out the Ukrainians' counteroffensive and how we expected it to work. And holy shit. Apparently, we didn't take into account that Ukraine was fighting the battle. We took into account that we, with our equipment, were fighting the battle. So if it looked like the plan was barked from the beginning, that's because it was. I don't know how you make that kind of mistake.
A fair question.
Like I can't understand. At some point, you have gathered a group of majors and colonels and lieutenant colonels and generals and commanders and captains and uh, uh, lieutenant commanders, and they're all sitting around a big thing, right? They're wargaming out this thing, and they're in the Pentagon. And at some point, among this great assemblage of supposedly some of the best military minds in the United States, who've attended war colleges to attain these ranks, nobody went, wait, shit, we're using the wrong parameters. I don't get how that happens.
Well, for those of your audience who aren't military historians, let's talk about the famous Japanese war game before the Battle of Midway.
Oh, excellent. Yes. Okay.
You know what I'm talking about, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. So, in brief, before they launched their plan to invade the island of Midway, the Japanese conducted a very big high-level war game. And during the war game, one of the things that happened is the guys who were playing the American side in the game used an approach to battle that almost duplicated the historical American approach. They came in from the north, hiding under rough weather and such, so that the Japanese scout planes wouldn't detect them, and then launched a surprise attack on the Japanese carriers before they could detect them, and sank three of them, which, for those of you who know the battle at all, yep, that's pretty much exactly what happened in the historical battle. And then the guy who was the head umpire ruled that, no, that would never happen. Let's go back and bring those carriers back to life and continue the game.
Yeah. So if you've watched the recent movie Midway, it was like 2017, I think, right? That it came
Yeah,
out. Sorry, that's irrelevant. Uh, Weird movie, worth talking about.
yeah,
They do this scene in the movie too, and like they have Admiral Yamamoto reset the whole war game and try it again, arguing that the United States would not have any forewarning of the attack, and this is juxtaposed against the scene of the United States being forewarned of the attack.
yeah.
So it like we know this example. It's an incredibly famous example. Isn't Leighton's book like on the Navy's reading list?
To an extent, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
my point here is that when you go into these big high-level war games, and everybody takes the Japanese to fault for this, but honestly, it wasn't a stupid mistake. They had, in the middle of a war, brought all the senior naval officers to one location for 2 days to game out this plan. They couldn't keep them there any longer. These are the guys that are actually at the front normally commanding the forces. So what they did is they said, this is a lesson learned. We need to take precautions to make sure we have scouts out. We need to look for the fact that the Americans might surprise us from an unexpected direction.
right. And in the case of this particular
And
battle,
then they forgot about the lessons learned.
well, I'm not necessarily sure about that because they obviously found the carriers. They just
Yeah.
did not. It was a timing issue for Japanese carrier strike group, right? They
Oh, yeah.
launched the
It's
attack on
very,
Midway.
very complex.
They launched the attack on Midway. The planes returned. They're arming them for a second strike because obviously you're not going to take out a tiny little island in one strike, even if you've got like 60% of your carrier fleet with you. Uh, it's a timing issue. So they're going to launch a second attack. They start arming for another ground attack. Different munitions than you would use on a ship attack. They punch out seaplanes off their cruisers and battleships, who's go and they find the American fleet. They turn around and decide to stop arming those planes with ground attack weapons, arm them with sea attack weapons instead. And during that period of time, the American carrier forces find them. And that's when you get the three carriers sunk and the fourth carrier launches its retaliatory raid. And that's only after all the planes in Midway are emptied out to attack them in the first place. The
Yeah.
Japanese' mistake was when they were attacked by the planes from Midway, not figuring out that something was up. Because they assumed they had the element of surprise, and somehow the Americans got their planes off the ground before the Japanese planes arrived, which means they knew they were coming.
Oh, yeah. But going back to the original premise of this whole discussion, this is, the guys in the Pentagon sitting down and saying, let's come up with a plan. So they just did it the way they normally do it. And as you say, nobody picked up on the fact that, oh, we're using American forces to execute this attack, not Ukrainian forces. Maybe we need to go back and restructure the starting parameters. It, these things happen, and they happen in every business and in every military operation. The only difference is in business, you just lose money. In military, when you make those mistakes, people lose lives.
Yeah, it just feels like because we're so involved in the process, we should have been aware of what's available.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the problem I have. Like we are the ones essentially fronting the Ukrainian army at this point in a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
ways. So we know they don't have air power. We know they don't have mine clearing equipment like we do.
Sure. But I would go back and say that you have to look at the fact that the real failing is we didn't really have a strategy from the beginning of how we wanted to approach the problem of the Russian invasion. All we knew was invasion bad, stop nasty Russians. Nobody sat down and said, okay, Mr. President, let's develop a coherent long range plan for how we're going to address this overall threat.
Yes.
And so it was this piecemeal, throw together as it goes along kind of plan. And those plans inevitably start coming off the rails in pretty quick order.
Yeah. It's just particularly because we have like I also feel that there's probably a problem with Senator Assface from Alabama, Tommy Tuberville, uh, and his holding up of promotions probably played a significant role in this issue. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you have a whole bunch of people who are on their way out trying to plan a major offensive for a country that's not even theirs. Like, senioritis happens to military personnel all the goddamn time.
Yeah.
After my final day in ROTC, after my medical denial, final medical denial went through, I could barely muster the energy to finish the report I was asked to do, and I was specifically asked to and not ordered to because it felt it was unlikely that I was probably going to do it.
Yeah.
I went from a
But
relatively
remember, we're talking about the party of family values and strong national defense and all of those things, and they know what they're doing. And obviously, that's why we had to do it this way.
yeah. Like I still would like to know what criteria we're using to determine what generals are and are not woke.
It's whether you contributed to the party or not.
Also, like, is it like generals that are awake? Because I don't know if you've noticed, they're all a little old at this point. It's just a really embarrassing thing to happen, particularly in a transition period for the military. On top of being like the futility of it, like what was gained
Yeah.
was insufficient for the task in the counteroffensive. It's given the Russians a significant amount of like propaganda victory. Even now, their
Oh,
telegram
yeah.
channels are crowing over this Senate.
Yeah, and you'll notice that what's happening in Europe at the same time as they see us hesitating, they're now starting to get hesitant.
Yes, which is another problem because like
Yeah, because they take their lead from us.
you have two basic options for European powerhouses. One of them is kind of flighty in the form of France. The other one is Germany. One of them has to really be on the ball if Europe gets invaded. Um, And while France gets a
And
bad rep,
everybody, for some reason, has these concerns about, a really strong German military. I can't
yeah,
imagine why.
I can't imagine what happened. Did something happen? You should let me know.
I'll do some research and let you know.
Excellent. Yes. So, France, as for example, like has an excellent military record. Don't believe the memes online.
Oh, yeah.
The last people you want to be fighting are the French. However, they're also kind of flighty. For example, they withdrew from NATO for a not insignificant portion of time.
Yep. I think the key is that the French have their own objectives and goals, and they're very willing to cooperate when they see them overlapping with ours. But they're always pursuing those personal goals.
Yes. Also, France is probably one of the. Even the French Navy is on the upswing, or has been ahead of the United Kingdom for a while too.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, absolutely.
they're much better at power production. The United Kingdom is catching back up, to be sure. Um, what if Russia?
Mm-hmm.
What in there? No.
Calm down, puppy.
Anyway, General Macmillan, I miss your presence on End Time. We all miss End Time desperately. You hear that, Nick? We miss you. Hope you're well. Even miss your partner, the other guy. I hope he's. Damn it. So what do we got?
The other.
Yeah, the vital thing to do: contact your representatives, please. Tell them to get this Ukraine aid passed.
Absolutely.